Welcome to A World Gone Mad. I am your host, Christian McMillan, and I hope you enjoy the scheduled programming. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. We're here in A World Gone Mad today with Matthew Purkis of the band Black Pontiac, and he's also an engineer as well as a music producer. How's it going, Matt?
It's going excellent, Christian. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks for being here.
How are you, man? You look great. Your skin is glowing. You got this Ted Lasso everyman look going on.
That's what I'm going for. I like Ted.
That's excellent.
Yeah, no complaints. Just trying to bring the podcast to life, working on some tunes. That's about it.
That's what I like to hear. What have you been working on recently?
Me and James York have been making a EP, a hip hop EP.
No way.
Yeah, man.
Oh, that's
pretty
sick.
exciting.
We had put together a little EP sort of like that, where he was making the beats for this. I forget what the project was, but we had to do something collaboratively, and I would love to just take a look inside that guy's brain and just see what's going on there, because there's so much going on in his beats.
Absolutely. He's definitely obsessed.
Yeah.
Which is a trait that I think you could affiliate with success in music.
Sorry, obsession or success?
Both. His obsession is what's going to make for his success as an EDM producer, I think.
Right. Yeah. Well, you just need, you ever seen the Defiant ones?
No, actually.
The one with Jimmy Iovine and Dr. Dre?
Oh, actually, I have. I'm lying.
I always think about, recently I've been thinking about that moment where where he talks about how the racehorses, they have those blinders on, and you, as a horse, if you look to the left or the right, the horse is gonna fall, and it's just gonna be a disaster. And you just when you're running after something, he says you gotta just put those blinders on and you gotta just go. You just gotta not worry about anything else. And that kind of reminds me of that, just the obsession thing, because I do think there is such thing as an unhealthy obsession about it. Right. And there's also the matter of what your definition of success is.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think it has a lot to do with not comparing yourself to others and not over-focusing on where you want to be, and thinking about where you are and what the next move is in context of your larger goal.
Absolutely. Well, as a member of Black Pontiac and doing this band thing, like, it's easy to miss all these little moments, these little small victories. Right. That's what it's all about, right? It's getting a show, getting your first kind of opening show, or getting, your first gig out of town, or recording your first single, or whatever, right? And
totally.
It's just those little things you got to just appreciate, even if it doesn't feel like you're getting somewhere in the moment.
I totally agree. Yeah, we got to try to make a point to remember that it's the journey, not the destination.
Yeah.
You hear so many people describe the moment they reached the success they always dreamed of, and they talk about it being the worst depression they ever experienced in their life, that they don't know where to go from there once they've achieved their grand goal.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Because it's like, because then it's like, okay, well, now what?
Absolutely.
Now what, right? Like, fuck. You gotta go to the next thing. You gotta work towards the next thing.
Absolutely.
Because if you stop, then you get lost.
Totally. So what have you been up to musically?
What have I been up to musically? Wow.
Last we were talking, the band was signed to a label quite recently.
Yes. We're signed with, we have a record deal with Crank Media.
Cool.
Local independent record company based here in Vancouver, BC.
Badass.
We just put out the third single Pink Eye, which is, excuse me, the third single off our debut album, From Bad to Worse and Back Again, which we're hoping to put out this spring before a tour I just put together.
Badass.
For May.
How many dates you got?
10 confirmed dates,
Badass.
and then like 1 or 2 that are TBD, right?
Right.
Because as it turns out, you only really, when you apply for the visa, we're going to the United States. So
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's got to be exciting.
It's very exciting.
Cool.
Our first gigs on American soil.
Badass.
Yeah. A lot more people, it makes you realize what small pond you're in here in Vancouver. It's very, as big as it can feel.
Yeah.
It's very, even just Canada as a whole, right? There's just because of the population size.
Oh, it's a drastic difference. Yeah.
But yeah, we were just traveling down the West Coast to San Diego, 2 dates in Arizona, Las Vegas, Salt Lake City, and then on our way back.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Sweet. Are you excited for Salt Lake City? Is that the biggest Mormon population in America, I think?
I get every time I bring up Salt Lake City, that's the question I get.
Right.
And honestly, I didn't hear a lot about Mormons, but every single local band I looked up from like the state of Utah I found sounds like the Backseat Lovers, which I think is so funny.
That is.
Just the way that all these different regions have these different very popular sounds. Kind of like here. I mean, I don't know if it still is now popular, but the jangly indie pop chorus thing, Mac DeMarco thing. SoCal's got like the punk thing, and Utah has I don't know, whatever it is the Backseat Lovers do. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know how to describe that sound.
Right. I always affiliate Salt Lake City with SLC Punk, and I think that's why I'm so quick to think about Mormonism, because they really drill that point across.
What, like Mormon punk?
No, they talk about the punk movement being there in response to there being such a heavily religious influenced community.
Oh, no shit, eh?
You haven't seen it with Matthew Lillard? I'd recommend.
Wait, sorry. So is that like a YouTube thing, or?
It's a movie, I think, from the 90s, and it's about some.
What's it called?
SLC Punk.
SLC Punk.
Yeah, it's some punks from Salt Lake City. And it's a really good movie.
That's incredible. I love the fact that I fell in love with DIY music, underground music. That's one of the reasons I started the band, or we started the band. And it's just been amazing to see places like that all over North America, all over like the world too. Like part of one of the resources I used to put this tool together was it was a website called Do DIY.
Okay.
I don't know if you've heard of it or not.
I haven't.
It's a database of a whole bunch of DIY promoters and venues from like every country.
Awesome. It's international.
Yeah, it's international. It's crazy. It's like, wow, this is amazing. This is, just that whole ethos with the just, not-for-profit art spaces. And it's just, it's a beautiful thing.
Cool. Yeah, all about keeping that independent.
Yeah, keeping it grassroots.
Totally. Which I think there's never been more opportunity for in the music industry. We're so far past things like gatekeepers and stuff like that.
Yeah. I have always felt like it's very, in my experience, it's always been very welcoming. As long as you're, not a dick.
Absolutely.
Then you're chilling, right?
Totally.
And I do think I go back and forth in my head about gatekeeping.
Right.
Because I do think there is something like, when you have something special like that, you want to kind of protect it.
Yeah.
So it doesn't, you don't get a song like Emo Girl. I don't know if you've heard that one.
I think I know the one.
The MGK Willow one.
Right, yeah.
Yes. Sometimes that makes me think that the emos should have gatekept a little harder.
Okay.
But generally, I think it's important to share those things.
Right.
You know, not everyone's going to appreciate it, of course, but you know, for someone like me, like it changed my life.
Absolutely. Yeah, I've been a big fan of watching people become wild, successful artists starting in their bedroom.
Yeah.
It's been an incredible thing to watch in my lifetime.
Well, I mean, like we've never been without the internet and without all this technology, right? And to someone, you know, 10 years older than us, it's probably, excuse me, it's probably just like unfathomable.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
How we can make something that good just sitting here at this desk.
Yeah, the power of a studio and a computer nowadays. It's crazy.
It's like you can make, like, Steve Lacy made Dark Red on his phone. Like on the MPC app on his phone. That is insane.
I watch some people on Instagram just dominate those phone app beat makers. It's incredible.
Jeez.
I have yet to have the patience. I've touched some of the pads on it here and there, but I have not figured it out. It seems like it takes a lot of effort.
Well, it's interesting. You know, my our producer for Black Pontiac, Matt DiPomponio.
Okay.
He's also kind of been a mentor to me as an aspiring producer myself.
Right.
And one of the things that was drilled into him by his mentor and that he kind of instilled in me was this belief that we shouldn't allow our limitations to become excuses, right? It's, you know, budget or access to XYZ. If you can make whatever you have sound good, then imagine what you can do with access to more resources.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah, you see a lot of bands before this innovation of the bedroom studio. They kind of spent a long time doing as much as possible with as little as possible. And then you hear as their resources grow, their music develop. Like Propagandhi is a punk band that I feel like you really watched that take off. You heard their sound go from something like the worst of no FX recordings to just a polished, incredible piece of progressive punk that has amazing production value.
Yeah, totally. And it's definitely, you definitely see a lot of that in a lot of bands as they kind of progress, right? And they just start feeling like, did you hear the new Turnstile record?
No, I haven't actually.
It's like,
I know the band quite well though.
Yeah, I thought it was sick. It was like, it was hardcore, but it was also like a dream pop record.
Cool.
Like all kinds of weird sounds and chorus effects and
sweet.
Very, very tight, you know, processed, polished sound, which I'm normally not a huge fan of. But I think the way they did it, because they were kind of going for that pop sound, it worked. And I quite enjoyed it.
Cool.
And quite a change from their kind of earlier, well, not really, but
I think I know what you mean.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of genres that somewhat the bands start to all sound the same. The best thing they could do is start to innovate and blend aspects of other genres.
Yeah.
Like it feels somewhat oxymoronic to even say the term progressive punk, but there absolutely are progressive punk bands.
That's so interesting to me that that's a thing.
Yeah. Totally. So I know you to be a huge hip hop head.
Oh my God. Tell me about it. Yeah, man.
You've been working on beats? You've been producing anything of the sort?
I've been working on some beats for myself. I find it difficult to, I think a lot of guys just kind of want, how do I put it? Like, I'm not really into the whole trap thing.
Right, yeah.
If I was going to make beats, I'd want to make beats that are kind of, I'd want to do it in such a way where it's my own. It's like, you know, people go to me for the Matt Purkis sound, right?
Absolutely understand that.
In the same way, like you go to the Neptunes for the Neptune sound. Or people go to Tyler the Creator for a Tyler the Creator beat.
For sure.
But that's been difficult because people don't want to do that until it's like popping off, right?
Yeah, I agree. You see a lot of that. But then you see so many people just carve their own paths when they're willing to have their own sound instead of chase trends.
Yeah.
Like JPEG or like
Oh,
Run the
man.
Jewels and the
course.
weird outsider styles of making beats.
That's what I love about hip hop. Just because for me, that's a genre that's always been about pushing boundaries.
Yeah,
Right?
absolutely.
Like an album like Donuts, Jay Dilla, Donuts, just to me redefined what a hip hop album could even be.
Totally.
Right? It's like you wanted to just like that's the first like hip hop instrumental album where that's like really deeply affected me to the point where like, wow, this is like I don't even know what this is, you know? It's incredible.
Yeah, for me, I think the first instrumental hip hop to have that effect on me might have been Introducing by DJ Shadow.
Oh, right. Yes.
Or Metal Fingers Presents the Special Herbs and Spices.
Brilliant.
Was another one.
Brilliant. And I think some of those beats ended up being the foundation for what was 1999 by Joey Badass, right? Like very influential.
Yeah, that's
to
a good
lot
album.
Of guys. And excuse me. Wow, that pre-workout is doing wonders, man.
It hits hard.
Oh man, that is brilliant. Thank you for that.
Blow, trademark. That's what it's called. It's called Blow.
Amazing.
Yeah. Feel free to move that mic around too if you want to be more comfortable.
Yeah, you know, this is good.
Okay.
I was a little bit slouched over, but
Yeah, no worries.
trying to get that shoulders out. You know, we're working on my form recently.
Right on. Right on.
But there are a lot of things that I want to do. I'm right now I'm looking for a rapper who like maybe doesn't have a huge following or whatever, but I'm really into it and I see potential in what they're doing and they're like, okay, this is kind of weird, but I'm down to like rap over your beats or whatever. And
For
like
sure.
get that like, you know, Clips, Neptunes kind of relationship.
Love it.
I see myself as being this kind of Pharrell Williams type figure who like needs as much attention as he can possibly get.
Okay.
That's an Aries thing, right? He's got to feature in the songs and he's got to produce the songs.
I think it's awesome to know that's what you're going for, though.
Yeah.
There's too many people who are too scared, I think, to just say that that's what they're going for, or they love that aspect of producers.
Yeah.
That they won't admit it. They're worried about coming off cocky or something like that. And I think you should be honest with yourself and others.
It's just fun, right?
Yeah.
Like, and he's a personality unto himself, right? Like an artist and a singer and a songwriter, and you know,
and
he
he's
does
just
everything.
terrific.
Yeah, and he's just like sick, and that's kind of what that's something I'd like to do, but I think I may have to come out with some of my own music first.
I get that.
To show people what it is that they could get from me, right?
I absolutely relate to that because that's what I got. 3 passion projects in the work. I target one at a time, but ultimately it's to make some of my own music to attract people who are interested in doing something of the vein.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
It's building a portfolio with your own work.
With your own work. And so like ideally, like I got my own work and then some projects of mine with other singer-songwriters that I know of. I would like to work within kind of the hip-hop, pop, R&B sphere and kind of just do, I don't know, like people come to me with references. Like, you know, when I get together with a singer-songwriter, I'm like, yeah, make me a playlist, right? Tell me what you're into.
Totally.
And, you know, we do our best to kind of reverse engineer elements from all these songs that they like and put those into the song. But it always just ends up coming out not quite like that, right? And I don't know if that's a mixing thing or if it's just the resources that I have available to me. But I think moving forward, that is probably my greatest strength and weakness.
Yeah, I think that just ends up being the case a lot of the time, that no matter how much emphasis you put on the influences, it ends up being its own thing. And you could recalibrate and try to have more of the influences shine through. But a lot of the time, I just always feel like it it takes its own form, a musical project, almost every time.
Totally. And you know, like I know a lot of great good producers, right?
Mm-hmm.
Who can make that, who can do that and make that sound like, you know, a good pop, trap, or R&B song that sounds like something you hear on the radio.
Mm-hmm.
But to me, that just feels, it sounds really good. It's been mixed really well. And on all these levels, it's a great song, but it just feels uninspired to me.
Totally.
Right? And I think to get to a point where I can mix at that level, but doing my own thing would be tight.
I get that.
Yeah.
How do you feel overall about mixing nowadays? You feel comfortable, or you feel like it's still no?
Not at all. No. The more I do it, the more I realize I don't know anything.
That's every endeavor I feel in life.
Well, but I also I would like to hand it off to somebody else, because at some point I don't think I'm going to have enough time for it.
Absolutely.
Right? Moving forward with, you know, balancing producing and the band things and kind of the administrative parts of the things I do with Black Pontiac too.
Mm-hmm.
It takes up a lot of time on top of my day job. Right?
Yeah.
So I don't know, but we'll see. I need to find somebody that I really can trust
For sure.
to do the songs justice, because that's tough for me to let go. Right?
It's a lot of trust, and you also want someone you could be real with.
Yeah.
You know, someone who takes criticism constructively,
Yes.
knows it's not personal when you have some input that it's just not what you're going for.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's all about being honest and having people you could be honest with if you want a musical project to go in its best direction.
Yeah. Well, I'm like, you know, when Matt Di Pomponio comes back to us with a mix from this album, and we're just like, fuck, man, like I don't like this. This just isn't doing it for me. And he's like, oh, okay, you know, and he just takes it back, does it again, right? And that's kind of how it's got to be. We just, you know, we always just work towards a point. We're working towards something that everybody is happy with. Because if I'm happy with it and the producer's not, or the producer's happy with it and I'm not, then I feel like we've failed. The project didn't reach its full potential.
Right. Yeah, as well as then you got to incorporate the band members, who I think will all be personally listening for their input, their personal contribution on the album, and be extra critical
Absolutely.
about that specifically.
Yes.
More ears, the better.
Well, yeah, and then it's like, people have notes on other people's contributions, and that's when it can get dicey creatively, but it always works itself out in the end.
Right. Like if the guitarist isn't happy with the bass, sort of scenario.
Shit like that, right?
Okay.
Like,
interesting. Right on. So I knew you to be practicing as a multi-instrumentist or something of the sort. You're playing a bit of everything. You still keeping up on the general practices of drums and guitar and stuff?
Multi-instrumentalist. I get by. Like I've mostly just been focusing on playing piano right now. It's
cool.
I'm teaching myself how to play, as kind of we were talking about earlier. Been listening to a lot of Stevie Wonder.
Badass. Huge fan.
Like just all the chord shapes and the things that he's doing is so far beyond my level of understanding of musical theory that I just now I'm trying to learn how to do that, and the why of like how does this work? How does this, you know? Because honestly, I feel like everybody just steals everybody else's chord progressions, you know?
Yeah.
And imitating before you can innovate is important.
Yeah, you got to learn the rules to break them.
Yeah, exactly. And then you know, when you learn a certain chord progression, because there's only so many, like, let's be honest, you know, you play it in a different, you play it with some different triads on the keyboard or something, or you play it on a different spot on the fret of a guitar or something. And then just, I don't know, from there, the world's your oyster, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, that's what I've been doing. You know, I wanted to pick up drums, but I don't have time.
Right,
I don't
right.
have the energy. I'd love to be a drummer.
Maybe
so
one
funny.
day.
Maybe, well, you know, I was thinking like when I'm old and
Right.
like, retired, I'd like to pick up saxophone.
Nice.
That's what I'd like to do. Or like flute or something.
Nice. That's actually, we got a flute here. My girlfriend just got it because
That's
she
amazing.
played in high school band.
Yeah.
And she's recently wanted to pick it back up again.
That's so cool.
I'm particularly not skilled in any brass or wind instrument.
Yeah, no, well, it's totally different from like the strings or like keys because it's like breath. You're breathing the life into it. And then you're also having to play the notes. So you're like, well, shit.
Yeah, I could see why people who are naturally inclined to sing, why it might transfer well for them or even assist their singing.
Yeah, I wonder how that works. I've never tried like a wind instrument.
Yeah?
So I can't say.
Yeah, we'll have to revisit when you pick up the sax.
Yeah. Shit.
So you guys got a new record coming out, or has anything come out recently? Black Pontiac?
So Black Pontiac, we just put out a new single. It's called Pink Eye. We've been promoting that. We've got some remixes for the song coming soon.
That's awesome. That can be great.
That's an exclusive. Nobody else knows that except you right now. So
Sweet.
I don't know when this is coming out, but you get the inside scoop.
You heard it here first.
You did. And then I'm hoping to put the whole record out in April.
Cool.
10 tracks, 34-minute runtime.
Awesome.
Quick, easy in and out adventure. Sonically, it's a bit all over the place, but it's the first time I can honestly say that I'm happy with it. I'm happy with the end result, and I enjoy listening to it, which feels amazing.
That is a great feeling.
Yeah.
I'm glad to hear.
The album's called From Bad to Worse and Back Again. I don't know where the name came from.
Okay.
I think I was watching Lord of the Rings, and it was like There and Back Again.
Right. Yeah.
I think that's where it might have came from, but
is that some Bilbo Gandalf? I think interaction.
Something like that. That's not really a part of the Black Pontiac aesthetic, but
yeah, there's not a lot of orcs involved.
Not a lot of orcs involved, but you know. We taking from places you'd least expect it keeps it interesting.
Absolutely.
And yeah, then we got that we want to go on tour supporting it. Hopefully, I'm waiting to hear back about some possible festival placements in the summer.
That'd be awesome.
And then from there, I'm not sure. I've just kind of been plotting and scheming, thinking about what the rest of this year is going to look like.
Love it. Do you guys are you investing in merch heavily for the tour?
We should be doing that, shouldn't we?
I hear you can make some decent scratch.
Well, I mean, I honestly will be surprised if we break even. Plus, you're only allowed to bring about $2,500 worth of merch across or like a broker or something. So
really,
yeah,
interesting. Good to know.
There was a whole. Oh man, just like applying for that visa, there was just a whole bunch of, dots and things you had to fill out. A lot of paperwork, a lot of hassle, but learning how to do it, I think, was really beneficial to my, I don't know, for whatever I plan to do in the future.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
This is your first tour?
It is.
Nice.
It is.
Going to America for your first tour.
Yeah. Well, we were like, that's where the action is, right?
Absolutely.
And it's been so cool just connecting with bands who are they just want to play shows and
Yeah, are you guys going to have any touring support, or are you looking locally for each stop on the tour?
Yeah, we're just kind of playing shows with local bands.
Awesome.
I mean, like sometimes we're the headliner, sometimes we're not.
Okay. Right.
Like in Seattle, we're playing kind of a mini festival, right, as like the sub headliner or whatever. Just because like we don't have a whole lot of draw down there. So ideally, someone would play after us. get people in, you know?
Yeah. I think it's similar to the phenomenon that happens when two producers collaborate, whereas you get to reach each other's fans playing with a different band.
Right.
And then you have a chance to meet their followers.
Yeah, exactly.
And vice versa.
Exactly. That's the whole idea, right?
Yeah. It's a cheat code for reaching people.
Totally. And it's just because my favorite venue ever in Vancouver was a place called Stylus Records.
Okay.
I don't know if you ever...
I've never been.
Yeah, it closed like probably a couple months before COVID happened.
Oh, really?
Just the basement of this record shop off a back alley off like 3rd and Main or something. But like the best show, there was a summer in 2018 or 2019 where shows happened like every weekend night, like Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday night. And, bands from all over would come and be on these bills, right? And you just met a lot of cool people. And the band that's touring usually doesn't play last because, a lot of people don't stick around, right? So I'm like, okay, well, why don't we just set up a show like that? Set up shows like that, like all over, right? Wherever we're going, right? Like, fuck the bar scene, man. Like, I don't know. They just...
No, I think record stores sounds like an awesome thing to directly approach.
Yeah, well, it's just like record stores, warehouses, skate parks, whatever. That's kind of where we found the most success.
Cool. Yeah, I might as well run with it. Cool.
And that's going back to the whole DIY thing, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That and kind of just being willing to do it your own way.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, again, I'd seen a lot of bands attempt what we're about to do, right? I'd seen bands do it, and to not a whole lot of success.
Right.
And I ask myself, why, right? Because at some point you need to get out of town. You need to start playing shows out of town. Otherwise, you're just going to fall into this cycle where, you play the same venue every month and the same people show up, et cetera, et cetera. But you go out of town and then you're not playing to anybody, right? So you just need to, you got to come up with some kind of creative way to bring people out through the help of promoters and the help of other bands, right?
I love it. I love it.
And before, I don't know. I mean, the next step, I guess, would be finding a booking agent who could help, get us on a supporting role for whoever, right? But for now, I think booking our own tours was the right move.
I like it. Yeah, I think it's kind of just comes all together with time, having a specific person for every, I guess, bureaucratic effort.
Well, because, when it becomes too much for one person to handle.
Yeah. Know your limits.
Well, because right now I'm kind of the de facto manager.
Okay.
Right? And I don't really see the need for having a manager currently until there is too much to manage. For me to manage, right? And then I can just focus on the artist thing. Because, when I was firing off 20, 30 emails a day, there's no time to write when you're doing that.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. I think that's what it's all about starting out. You're kind of just in charge of everything.
Yeah.
And then as you start to succeed and be where you want to be, you'll find a way to pool out all the work that you never intended to do as your creative goal.
100%. I think a lot of bands just want to leave it to somebody else. And I think that's where a lot of bands will fall short.
Yeah, I think the experience is a loss if you're just going to give it away right from the beginning.
Yeah. Well, and also I've found that, sometimes you can't trust people to do that, right? Or do it well enough or do it better than I could do it personally.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
I think you really need somebody who understands what is best for your band, right? Because some gigs will be more beneficial to moving your career forward than others. Some water.
Oh, yeah. Help yourself, dude.
Thank you.
Yeah. Have you been reading anything? I remember that you were reading a lot about music business in particular.
I was. I think I read a lot of nonfiction just because I don't know. For me, it's just about learning, just learning as much as I can.
I've heard that's really common with dudes. They just have a huge inclination to read nonfiction more so than fiction.
Yeah, I'm not sure what it is, but I'm just like, if I'm gonna read, then I should probably be reading something that's gonna like benefit me. Not to say that fiction doesn't. I don't know. Not to say that fiction doesn't benefit you in kind of creative ways, maybe.
Yeah.
But right now, I'm actually reading a memoir from Yusuf Salam,
Okay.
who is a member of the Exonerated Five.
Okay.
If you were, I don't know if you saw the Netflix movie about that. You know
What was the movie called?
It was a 4-part series called When They See Us.
Okay, I think I
Netflix.
saw it in passing and didn't get around to watching it. You'd recommend?
I would.
Okay.
Are you aware of the Central 5 jogger case? Central
No,
Park?
no, I'm not actually.
So I believe it was like 1989. It was maybe a little bit later. But basically, this I don't know, trigger warning here, just sexual assault or whatever. But there's this woman who got attacked and assaulted in Central Park one night, right? Kind of the same time these kids were hanging out in Central Park, these kind of just a bunch of black kids from Harlem. You know, they come up to Central Park because, you know, I don't know, they got nowhere else to go. They're just hanging out. They're kids, right? 14, 15, 16.
Right.
And 5 of these boys get accused and found guilty of assaulting the woman, even though like there was a whole mountain of evidence that was kind of contrary to that, right? But I think at the time, the DA, you know, wanted to. I don't know. I'm blanking, but they wanted to find somebody responsible for the case. They wanted to put the case away.
That's unfortunately the case in so many scenarios that they don't care if you actually did it. They just want someone. It reflects good on the police force.
Yeah, exactly, right. And so those kids went away for like 8, as long as like 8, 7, 8, 9, 10 years, right? And some of them got released on parole, and then they got exonerated in like 2007 or something.
Really?
Right?
What brought about the evidence being re-examined?
It was crazy. So one of the kids was this guy, Corey Weiss.
Okay.
And Corey Weiss, he wasn't even there at Central Park. He went with Yusuf Salam to the police station.
Okay.
To just be there to support his friend. And then they kind of forced a confession out of him. And because he was 16, they sent him to Rikers Island. They sent him to an adult prison.
Right.
And that's where I guess he met a guy. Oh, I forget his name, but he met a guy who would eventually admit, after meeting Corey Weiss, admitted to doing the crime. And then he had DNA that matched, I guess, the victim, or the DNA that was on the victim or whatever.
Really?
And that's how they got exonerated. It just
wow,
like totally,
that's right out of a movie.
Yeah, I know. It's just crazy, right?
Yeah.
And
rings somewhat of the Caliph Browder case with a young man being put in Rikers.
Is that the kid that was accused of stealing the backpack?
Yeah, and he just wouldn't plead guilty to it. And the way that the system is set up is that you're more likely to be released if you'll just confess to the crime you didn't do.
It's like a fucking game, you know, like the criminal justice system, right? Like with bail and with like, you know, oh, if I fight it, I might get more time, or if I just admit to doing it, right?
Yeah.
And so this is, you know, in his memoir, he just kind of reflects on his time in prison and, you know, his life before and after, because he likes to stress that, you know, he had a life before and a life after, and just kind of, I want to properly get across what he's trying to say, but it's called Better, Not Bitter, right?
That's the name of the book.
That's
memoir?
the name of the book, and he talks about taking that experience and growing from it and using his experience to benefit others. He believes he says it's a story of God and his people. Eventually, he was, we know the story of Joseph in the Bible, who he had the coat of many colors, and he was sold off by his brothers, and then he worked for the Pharaoh as a dream interpreter until he was accused of. No, I'm messing that up. Excuse me. He was accused of sexual assault.
Okay.
Right. But then I think he interpreted dreams for the Pharaoh or whatever, and eventually he was, found. I went to Catholic school. I should know this. I should know all this shit.
Yeah, no pressure.
But, the point I'm trying to say is, he's just, I don't know what I'm trying to say right now. Fuck, I'm blanking.
Well, it sounds like he's trying to use his hardship to inspire others and help people deal with theirs.
And fight the criminal injustice system, as he calls it.
He's presently still with us?
Yes.
That's good.
He's a public speaker, and, he goes and he talks about kind of racial injustice. And
it was Yusuf?
Yes, Yusuf Salam.
Very cool. Very cool.
He speaks a lot about it in the context of his Muslim faith.
Very cool. Yeah, it sounded like the language you were using, very religious.
Yes.
In essence, which you do see how powerful that could be for some people to deal with their hardship and even inspire them to get the most out of a bad thing.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, and it's just I believe there's something out there, I believe that maybe, I hope at least, I have hope that one day it's all going to make sense. Mm-hmm. That's what I hold on to, right? Because I just, I do think there is something to be said about, not believing in anything and kind of just creating your own meaning. But I don't know. That's kind of scary.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do think it can have moral ramifications. Mm-hmm. Somewhat, I've noticed among people I know who are very enticed with works of Friedrich Nietzsche and start to think that morality is subjective. But I noticed it somewhat impact them for the worse. It can be destabilizing to their moral compass.
Right. Do you believe in an objective truth?
I do, or I believe in trying to get as close to it as we can.
Right. That's something I've wrestled with for a long time, because we talk about, speak your truth, right?
Absolutely.
That's something I hear a lot. Mm-hmm. And that's something I say a lot too, actually. Mm-hmm. And I feel like maybe there is an objective truth, but because of all of our uniquely crafted, based on all of our lives, our experiences, our beliefs, our upbringings, and our very narrow, it's created a very narrow, unique mindset of our own that makes it very difficult to reach that objective truth. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yeah, and we even have limitations that could be scientifically proven in our perception, right?
Yes, exactly.
Like our memory is quite faulty to a degree and things like that.
Totally. So that way I can meet everybody in the middle, you have your truth, but we're also striving to reach achieve something else, some other kind of, there's what you believe happened, there's what I believe happened, and there's what actually happened.
Yeah, and then we should try to get as close to that as possible, even if it can be disillusioning. Mm-hmm.
And I think maybe that was the idea of the criminal justice system, but I feel like that's sometimes not the case.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Where it makes me think of how, speaking about the way that these things sound well-intentioned, though the measures in actual application could be doing more harm than good.
Yes. Well, I think that's...
Because you may look like you're getting more criminals off the street, but what's that worth when you're putting away innocent people?
When you're putting away fathers, right? You're putting away innocent people, but you're also putting away fathers, brothers, uncles,
children,
friends.
Yeah.
Right. And right, and you're putting them in prison, and then they can never really, even when you're out of prison, right? you can't get a job, you can't vote.
It's
you
made
can't-
as difficult as possible
Yeah.
for you to have a good life afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I would like to look into like more like, I'm not saying I'm a prison abolitionist, but I would like to look into more of that literature.
I think about it a great deal, and the place I always end up in is that to try and assess the issues in the prison complex, particularly in America, I think education is the best place to start because
Right.
it should be preventative. Because a lot of people are so severely damaged by the prison system that it's
Yeah.
hard to say how much you can help them. You could actually reform them because that's clearly not what's occurring
No.
when they leave the prison system.
Yeah.
So if you started with something along the lines of teaching children about human behavior, human nature, and how to work with their own so that they don't end up in positions that they feel that they'd be better off to indulge in the most heinous of criminal activity.
Yeah. It's so difficult though, because like, the reason, the reason people are sent to prison is because, a lot of these kids grow up in low income neighborhoods.
Have an absent father.
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
That's because, and that's, it's this self-repeating cycle. There's,
Absolutely.
you go back farther, there's redlining and urban development.
For sure.
Right. And, a lot, and that creates this, Yusuf Salam talks about this in his book, the kids from these lower income neighborhoods, they go to a place like Central Park because it's a lot nicer of a park.
Right.
And then they go back to their neighborhoods where, the place that they're living in isn't as nice, or the parks aren't as well kept, right? And it creates a dissonance in their mind, like this is, I don't belong here. This is what I deserve, right? For a young child, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And that evolves into, something like prison becoming almost a rite of passage.
Yeah,
for young
for
men,
sure. Absolutely.
right? It's all kind of, it's something obviously difficult for us to fully comprehend, right?
Yeah.
But that's something he was alluding to, how it's psychologically damaging.
Yeah, your circumstances becoming the narrative you tell yourself, and then you weave this self-fulfilling prophecy of doom of some kind.
100%.
I think that's what happens. I feel like I've personally seen it in people I know who go down the bad path. It's that they never thought they could tell themselves a different story than the one they were given.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and just, right? I'm lost.
Yeah, no pressure. No pressure,
man.
dog.
I am, oh, wow, yeah, I'm exhausted. We've come a long way from music. That was great.
Yeah, that's what I like, though. That's also somewhat what I'm going for with the show, catching the natural essence of jumping topic to topic. And
amazing.
it's something even I like in lots of my favorite writers. It's very state of mind.
Yeah. Yeah, very state of mind. How?
I like a lot of writers that when they write first person perspective, it is not grammatically correct necessarily and things like that. And they'll have interesting uses of things like colons and semicolons to capture the way your mind will jump from one thought to another in affiliation.
Yeah, it feels like a Safdie Brothers film. Like that. Have you seen like Uncut Gems, Good Times?
I haven't yet, but when Daniel Day-Lewis said he loved it, I feel like I have to see Uncut Gems.
It's, the way, I don't know if you've seen any films by them.
I don't think so. Not that I know off the top of my head.
I think we talked about it in post audio, but the dialogue is weird. It's like it's actually written how people talk. So people people don't necessarily they start their sentences like mid thought or whatever. And
that's exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah, exactly, right. And it's very real, and it's almost a little bit distracting and kind of unsettling.
Yeah, it makes you uneasy in a way.
Yeah,
in a way. That's there's that movie Rules of Attraction. It's Bret Easton Ellis novel, the guy who wrote American Psycho and whatnot. But the movie ends in the middle of a sentence.
Oh, really?
It's a train of thought he's having, and it ends before he even finishes the thought.
Yeah.
And I really like that.
Shit like that.
Leaves you on edge. I even find with fiction personally, talking about enjoying a lot of nonfiction, my favorite sections of fiction are always fiction that resemble reality to a painful degree.
Okay. Such as?
I really like Fyodor Dostoevsky, and it's a lot of novels about 18th century Russia, but it is just stories that were very real, though fiction. It's nothing unbelievable, or even the conversations captured are things that people genuinely were concerned about, like rising of radicals and nihilism, collectivism, Christian influence. And these conversations are like a philosophical conversation two people would really have.
Yeah, it exists in kind of a world very similar to ours. It's very like, it's based in the real world, but it's, fictional story.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I had a religion teacher. I went to Catholic school. I had a religion teacher in grade 12 who made Tolstoy novella part of our curriculum.
That's awesome.
The death of, what was it called? The death of the death of, I don't know. It was a story. I don't remember the name, but it was a story. And basically it's just about a man who's lying in bed and he's dying. And he just he's dying this painful death.
Very Russian.
Yeah. And he's just contemplating his life and all of his, all the things that he did wrong, right? All of his regrets. And it's very beautiful in a weird way.
Yeah, I'm sure, right? A very painful way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just him being like somehow trying to right these wrongs, but he can't really. He can't take these things back, but finding that I think that there's beauty in that suffering.
Yeah, not a worry.
There is I don't know, because life kind of is suffering. That's what it is, right?
Yeah, I have heard people say they think that statement in itself to be cynical, but I can't help but disagree myself because it makes sense if you have something is worth suffering for.
Exactly.
That if you know what you're trying to do with your life and you have your moral compass, that suffering feels like it makes sense.
Yeah, exactly.
It isn't a negative thing once you've made sense of why it's there.
And I'm fortunate enough to have found a direction in my life that I want to pursue. Right?
It's a blessing.
In this music thing, as I'm sure you have too. But it's tragic how some people don't. That's a difficult thing for a lot of people, right? To find that direction and to find that meaning, because otherwise it's just kind of suffering.
Yeah, I see it all too often. People who really only live for the weekend and they only live for their Xbox, and you see them kind of live a life of some sort of desperation.
Right. I feel like I've always thought that the most fulfilling life that one could have would be something like an immigrant coming here to or somewhere more prosperous and starting a line that builds generational wealth and creating a better future for your children and your grandchildren and creating that lineage. I feel like to go through all that and to go through all that sacrifice and all that risk, that to me feels like it would be more satisfying than any kind of fame or money or anything.
Yeah, the contrast of where they come from sometimes. I love to talk to people from all sorts of other countries. I'm just always curious about their perception of even what's going on in Western society, how they feel about it.
Yeah.
You ask their intention. Do you ever want to go home? Sometimes you hear people say, fuck, no.
And we could learn so much. And I love the fact that, Canada is it's a very diverse country.
Absolutely.
It's part of our identity, and that's a beautiful thing.
I agree.
Because even something as it's interesting. I was do you know Frankie?
From school?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I went Frankie runs a studio out of East Van.
Cool.
Him and his friend Jacob.
He rents it or he runs it?
He runs it. He runs it. So he's
Cool.
got he rents the room and then runs this kind of business engineering.
Good
right?
for him.
And I was in there the other day, and because I wanted we got a rapper. This rapper Sam Darko.
Okay.
Incredible rapper.
Right on.
He's doing a remix for Pink Eye. You heard that here first too.
That's right.
And it is amazing. I just got the mix back. It is fucking incredible.
First here, folks.
And I was me and Sam got there a little bit earlier, and we were just talking. Sam is a black man, and he was just saying, you know, like, shit, man, like, there's not a whole lot of black people in Vancouver.
Yeah,
right?
way less than, say, Toronto or something. Or at
like,
least in my first observation.
Yeah.
Seems that way.
Yeah, very small black population.
Mm-hmm.
And later, kind of in the session, Sam is talking to Frankie just about, like, how he does his hair.
Okay.
Right? Something like... And I was just like, wow, like that's just something I'll never totally understand.
Oh, not at all, yeah.
Like being white and always being around white people, you know? Just there are little things that culturally, right, and just racially, like, you know, it's all those little things, right? And it was an interesting, like, I don't know. I felt like I learned something from that experience. Even it was just a tiny, tiny moment that I don't think anybody else noticed.
Right.
But then that's one of the reasons I think, you know, diversity is so important.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I also think you get a lot out of life when you make a point to fraternize with people of all sorts and try to understand their perspective and empathize with people who have come from situations that you couldn't even imagine.
Yeah, of course. And I'm blessed to have had that opportunity through music, especially, right? I went to when I was in elementary school, you know, I went to school with a lot of Filipino kids, and, indigenous kids, Mexican kids, I guess, or that was you know, just coming from traditionally Catholic families and cultures that are predominantly Catholic, and I feel like that too was just another thing, like, just I don't know, that I feel like I benefited from.
For sure.
Right. And it's just because I don't know. I would love to travel and to just see it all and experience it all and just become more worldly and always just be learning and be more understanding, and accepting kind of the privilege that I have being who I am, right?
For sure. Sometimes it even feels like a reality check because you'll have a perception of a country, and then when you meet someone from that country, you ask about the political conflict going on or something of that sort, and they'll tell you a story that is not what you hear on social media or the news, and I think it can be a very interesting reality check sometimes.
Well, yeah. I don't know, it's hard for me to tell, like, there's just so much information just being thrown at you constantly, and I just feel like, shit, man, I'm too busy to worry about this, you know.
Absolutely.
I would like to do the research and create an informed opinion, but right now I need to focus on my life and my mental health and my. You know, I got to put the blinders on.
Yeah, sometimes you have to maintain by taking a step back.
Yeah.
And it's so much work. We have so many opinions on so many things and so many facts thrown at you all the time that I have a life. I can't sit there fact checking all day long.
Everybody has to have an opinion on every single thing, right? God.
Sometimes that's something I can't help but notice, and I think it's so comical when people really do feel like they have to have an opinion on everything.
Yeah.
I know some people who will not just say, I don't know.
Yeah, but no, that's just, I don't know. I don't know, man. I'm okay with saying that. I don't know.
I love that stance. Typically, I'm like, tell me what you think.
Yes, I don't have enough information. That's what I say. I don't have enough information to formulate an informed opinion.
Yeah.
Right? Because anyone can put You could say anything, stick it on one of those colorful infographics, put it on your Instagram story, and some people will be like, there it is.
They're going around repeating it. Next thing you know, they're sharing it on their stories. I all the time have people come to me with something they found that way, and they start saying it, and I'm like, but yeah, have you looked before you're repeating this to me?
Yeah. And there's this trending sound on, I don't know if you go on TikTok, but
Very little, a little bit though.
I kind of got sucked into it because
Okay.
I'm making content for the Black Pontiac page.
Yeah, well, it can be very fucking useful, that's for sure.
But there's this trending sound. It was from like somebody was doing a voiceover of like Metal Gear Solid or something, and the guy's like, "That's a nice argument, Senator, but can you back it up with a source?" And the guy's like, "My source is that I made it the fuck up." I just love that.
I like that too. Sometimes that's a thing I do intentionally. I'll repeat something I know it might not be true, and I just
source,
say,
bro, and I made it up. It's not real.
Yeah. People ask me if I fact check something, and I go, hell no, I don't want to. I'm like, that's a great talking point.
Citation, it came to me in a dream.
Yeah.
Like, obviously.
It's just a hunch. Come on. If you don't see it, I can't help you.
Let me speak my truth.
That's exactly the thought.
Fuck. Because
dog.
it's crazy, you know? I'm reading a book. I was reading a book by Malcolm Gladwell. I don't know if you read
for
anything.
sure. The tipping point and whatnot.
He is brilliant. His newest book, Talking to Strangers.
Okay.
Just kind of he talks about what we the basic. It's a very long kind of. It's written in like a synthesis style essay with an argument about understanding what we should know about people and what we think we know, but we don't really know. And he talks about how people can look at the same piece of information and take two. This might have actually been from Revisionist History podcast. It was something to do with Malcolm Gladwell, but basically he said two people can look at the same pieces of information and draw two radically different conclusions based on that data.
I absolutely perceive that to be true.
That is. Oh man, that is, I don't know, like, and then going back to like objective truth, like how do we find that when we're evaluating this data also based on our own beliefs and our own conclusions and our own upbringings, right?
Yeah, and it's difficult, even if you have the direct intent of putting them aside to try and see what's real and what the most objective truth you can come to is. My personal preference when it comes to things like that is I try to find an expert I really trust to be objective and then them explain the scientific data. Because I'm not going to lie, sometimes I look at it and I go, I think this is what this study is saying, but I can't pretend to actually know.
I don't actually know. Like how?
And sometimes they're intentionally misrepresenting something for a point. They'll have the graph start at a certain point,
like
and then the next one will start at a different point, making the distribution look larger than it actually is. Things like that.
Or like, fuck, you know, what was the company that was selling OxyContin? What's the name of that company?
I can't remember off the top of my head.
But you know, they did shit like that with when they were pushing OxyContin to get sold at pharmacies and given out for prescriptions in the 90s. They used a graph that made they said it was less addictive. That was one of the big selling points. It wasn't as addictive, and they used a graph that was intentionally very misleading because of the way the numbers were spread out.
That's exactly. It occurs. And I think it should be circular logic that when people are making money, their motivations are to continue making money despite risk. Yeah.
Fuck, man. Oh, jeez. Yeah.
Can be a controversial point nowadays, though.
Yeah. Well. Yeah. I don't know.
Right on. Well, you want to wrap it up there?
Sure, man.
Where do people find your stuff? What are you up to? Are they going to get some links to your sweet TikToks and whatnot?
Black Pontiac. We are Black Pontiac. That's at Black Pontiac Music on Instagram. We're on all the streaming services.
That's right.
We got an album coming out. New single out now, Pink Eye. Got a new album out coming out in the spring, From Bad to Worse and Back Again. Yeah, and Christian.
Fuck yeah, dog.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, anytime,
Amazing.
man. Fucking everybody go to those plugs. Hit up Black Pontiac.
Black Pontiac. Hit
Come
me up
into
for
cities across America.
coming to the West Coast city near you.
That's right.
We're about to take over.
That's right.
The sky's the limit.
Right on. Thanks again for being here, Matt.
Of course. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.